If you are what you eat, then does what you eat affect your manifestation? Of course it does. Stick around and we'll talk. And thank you for joining me. So today we're talking about food. Everything that we take into our bodies affects us on an energetic level. We are energetic creatures after all. However, being aware of how this energy affects us is a key thing when it comes to understanding how it can affect your manifestation. Now, I am going to go ahead and say what you eat will not completely derail your manifestation. It's more like if you have a new car and you put higher quality gasoline in it, you'll get better performance from your car. If you put higher quality nutrition in you, you'll get better performance from your manifestations. And as you move into a point where you are permanently on a higher vibrational level, then you will find that you just cannot work with foods that do not nourish you. So, unfortunately, eventually, you give up the double cheeseburgers because they just aren't cutting it anymore. And really, after a while, they stop tasting good. So let's talk about what kind of foods are good for you. What kind of foods put you in a vibrational alignment state that makes manifestation easier? The most basic test of this is food that is in its most natural state. Food that is organic, has not been treated with pesticides. It's fresh, it's seasonal, it's local. It is things that have not had to be extensively processed to be eaten. And what does this look like? Well, quite often, fruits from your own garden. If you get a tomato from your garden that is still warm from the sun, it is going to have a higher vibrational frequency than a tomato from the grocery store that was picked 2 weeks ago when it was green and force ripened on the trip. However, that tomato, even the grocery store one, is going to be of a higher vibrational frequency than one that has been processed into tomato sauce. So the more you stay close to the food's original form, the higher vibrational frequency it's going to have. There are certain foods that we consider superfoods, and those almost universally have higher vibrational frequencies. Spirulina, chlorella, maca, ashwagandha, all of these have very, very high vibrational frequencies, and bringing them into your body will help your body be at a more centered alignment of vibrational frequency for your manifestation. Drinking, if you can't stand the taste of tap water, and let's face it, most municipal tap water might be a little bit questionable, herbal teas, twig teas, organic green teas are very, very high vibrational frequencies. Most herbs, most spices that have not been tampered with, irradiated, things that are organic, will give a lot of flavor to your food, but they will also keep that vibrational frequency high. There are various healthy oils and fats, such as olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, that are all very, very high frequency. Nuts, seeds, sprouts, legumes, things that are, again, very close to their natural state, are going to have a higher vibrational frequency. Seaweeds, if you have nori on your sushi, seaweed is very high in vibrational frequency. If you insist on eating grains, stick with the whole grains. Oats, brown rice, spelt, millet, quinoa. Foods that have been through a fermentation process to start breaking them down to make them more easily digestible for humans, such as kimchi or kombucha, are also much higher. It's not so much higher on the frequency as they're in a state where we can more readily take advantage of the frequency that they have. Raw honey, maple syrup, and dates are great sources for those of you who have a sweet tooth. And, some foods, you must do something to start breaking down the food itself for the human body to take advantage of it. Leafy greens, particularly things like the strong leafy greens like kale or spinach, must be cooked for the human body to fully extract the nutrition from it. So when you're doing something like that, cook it in a way that keeps as much nutrition as possible in it. Steaming, lightly steamed, roasted, grilled, dehydrated even, will start breaking down the plant cell walls so that you can extract the nutrition more easily without losing the vibrational frequency. Always raw food and raw diets will have a higher vibrational frequency than cooked foods because the cooking process does change the vibrational frequency. There are a lot of people who ask if meat counts for high vibrational frequency. It is a lower frequency than most vegetables. However, if you are a person who insists on having meat on in your diet, or if you're a person who has a medical need for the protein from meats, stick with meats that have been locally sourced, meats that have been ethically raised, meats that have been grass finished, not fed GMO corn and soy, stay away from farmed fish. So you're looking for things that, again, are as close to the natural state as possible. If you are a fish eater, sushi is actually very high vibrational because the sushi is so fresh. It was swimming in the sea the day before if it's being prepared correctly. And it is in its raw form, so it has not been denatured by the cooking process. If you're sticking with eating things like beef and pork, cook them completely so that you don't have to worry about things like trichinosis in pork, but at the same time, keep them as close to undercooked as possible. If you can handle steak rare, do it, because that will be a higher frequency than steak that is well done. The more you cook it, the more you denature it, the more you are removing the vibrational frequency and replacing it with the artificial frequency of heat. So what do we need to avoid if we are going to be conscious of our eating as we're manifesting? We need to avoid things that have been artificially genetically modified. Now, there's two types of genetic modification. There is the genetic modification that happens in a lab, which is what people tend to look at when they see GMO foods. But there's also the genetic modification that is achieved through generations of breeding for specific traits. This is what took corn from being a grass similar to wheat to being the corn on the cob that we know today. Foods that have been genetically modified through breeding practices are still high vibrational. Foods that have been genetically modified through laboratory interference, not so much. So if you're looking at a food and it's not telling you where it was raised, not telling you what the source of it is, and not telling you if it's been inundated with chemicals and pesticides, if you possibly can, you might want to avoid it. You definitely want to avoid foods that have had natural flavoring or added flavors or colors or hydrogenated oils used in the processing of it. So that's going to knock out most of your junk food right there, including potato chips. Sorry, sad fact. You want to avoid foods and supplements that use citric acid as a preservative. While citric acid in its natural form is really great for you, when it's used as a preservative, it is in a form that the human body just does not react well to. You want to avoid foods that are made with processed flours, such as unbleached flour, enriched flour, white flour, cake flour. So all of those light, fluffy pastries, not so good for you. You want to avoid sugars and artificial sweeteners. If you must indulge your sweet tooth, go for natural honey, go for natural syrups. You can go for agave syrup, although there are some ethical issues involved in agave harvesting that come from irresponsible farming practices. So whenever possible, if you're going to get a natural sweetener like a locally sourced honey, go for something that's locally sourced. Go for something that has been produced through ethical practices. One of the benefits to local honey, by the way, is if you are prone to allergies and you start having a spoonful of honey that is produced within a 5-mile radius of where you live, you will be inoculating yourself against the pollen that causes hay fever. So over time, your allergies get better if you are taking a spoonful of raw local honey on a daily basis. And, if you must indulge your sweet tooth, that will definitely do it. Coffee, the bean juice is one of those wonders of life, isn't it? However, again, go with coffee that is organic. Go with coffee that is ethically sourced. Stay away from coffee that comes from industrial farms. And whatever you do, don't drink instant coffee. It tastes awful and it has no vibrational value to you whatsoever. You need to stay away from sodas, beverages that are nothing but sugar. Those so-called health drinks in the plastic bottles that you see at the grocery store. Yeah, I mean, the names are catchy and they look pretty and they do taste good because we get addicted to sugar, but they're still sugar. And this is not what you need to be putting in your body if you're trying to naturally enhance your vibrational level. You want to stay away from tap water. Most municipal tap water systems put chemicals in their water. They bleach it to kill off all the germs, which totally understandable. And then they put in fluoride, which can calcify the pineal gland in large amounts. If you have well water, that's fantastic, as long as it is from a safe aquifer. But if you're doing with municipal tap water, probably best to, at least boil it before you drink it. You also want to stay away from water that has been stored in plastic bottles. Many plastics produce a chemical called BPA that can leach into water if it's exposed to heat. Now, you might be wondering how it's exposed to heat. Well, think about how water bottles are transported. You have these huge flats that go into these big trucks with no ventilation and no cooling systems. And they're transported across the country, and in summer it can be 110 degrees inside of one of those boxes, which is enough to leach BPA into your water, and then you drink it. So you want to stay away from that. I know a lot of people get disappointed when they hear they want to stay away from alcohol. There are exceptions to this. First of all, don't overindulge in alcohol. If you are going to drink, go for, wine is good as long as the grapes are organic, sulfite-free, from biodynamic farms, and ethically sourced. If you are a beer drinker, you are best off going with dark beers such as stouts that come from small breweries or home brews rather than commercial breweries. If you drink IPA, really? Why? What's the point? If you are looking for hard alcohols, again, you're looking for alcohols that are from sources that are as close to the whole food as possible. Vodka is better than bourbon because bourbon has to go through so many additional steps in the mash. So you can drink alcohol in moderation, just do so responsibly, knowing where it's sourced from and how your body is likely to react to it. This varies from person to person. You definitely want to stay away from any meat source that comes from a factory farm or any protein source that has been fed on GMO feed, or in some cases when you're dealing with factory farms where they'll pump the animals full of antibiotics and literally feed them ground up bone meal of their own kind. Stay away from that because that's just a recipe for lowering your vibration. You definitely want to stay away from anything that has been processed, excessively packaged, canned, And unfortunately, you want to stay away from fast foods because you know it's not good for you. You know you feel like crap after eating it. And that's because it's such low vibrational pseudo nutrition. I mean, it fills your stomach, but really, it doesn't do anything for you. You want to stay away from trans fats. You want to stay away from highly processed oils. So, you know, organic olive oil, fantastic. Canola oil, or the stuff that's marketed as vegetable oil without telling you what vegetables it comes from, stay away from that. And definitely, whatever you do, stay away from margarine. I know margarine we get told it's healthier than butter. Tell you the truth, butter is healthier. Yes, it does have saturated fats in it, but butter from a reputable source is much healthier for you than margarine, which was originally developed as a supplement to fatten up turkeys for Thanksgiving until the turkeys wouldn't eat it.
Boober would like to remind you to please boop the like button. Thank you.
If you are going for dairy foods, stay away from anything that has been excessively pasteurized. Stay away from any form of dairy that is not coming from an organic source. If you can get to a local dairy and get farm fresh stuff that, you know, is same day, that's fantastic. You also, no matter what you do, you want to stay away from foods that have been deep fried because that completely destroys vibrational frequencies. And you'd want to stay away from microwave foods. I know it's so nice to have something easy that you can just pop in, press a button, and it's there hot for you, but it really, really destroys the vibrational frequency of the food. Now then, this is turning into one of my longer videos. I apologize for that. I'm going to tell you 2 tricks that you may not find anywhere else. If you're at the grocery store and you see something that's on your list and you cannot tell if vibrationally it's good or not, ask. Stand with your feet hip width apart. Stand tall, stand balanced, keep your shoulders relaxed. And pick up the food that you're unsure about. Close your eyes. Take 3 or 4 deep breaths so that your conscious mind is connecting to your subconscious mind. And then ask, is this food a healthy choice for me? If your natural inclination, standing there with your eyes closed after asking that question, is to move forward a little bit, that is a yes. If your natural inclination, standing there asking that question, is to move back a little bit, that's a no. You want to stay away from it. If you don't move at all, the food's neutral. You can decide if you want it or not. So that is a quick test that you can do anywhere. Who cares if people look at you funny in the grocery store, right? You're never going to see them again. The other thing you can do, since so many people live in food deserts where you kind of have to take what you can get, there is a way to increase the vibrational level of your food. If you are in a situation where you cannot get whole foods, where you cannot get fresh vegetables, where you cannot get the foods that are naturally vibrationally high, you can increase the vibration of your food. Now, this should be a short-term thing. You do not want to do this every day for your normal nutrition. You want, if at all possible, to be eating as healthy as possible to begin with. But you take whatever it is that you're getting ready to eat. You hold on to it. You take your 3 to 4 deep breaths. Breathe in, hold, and release. 3 or 4 of those. And set your intention. Tell this food that it will nourish you. It will make you feel energized. It will digest easily. And after eating it, you will feel satisfied and full. As you're doing this, picture your quantum field, the energy in your hands, interacting with the energy of the food, increasing the vibration for your greater health. Like I said, you do not want to do this for every meal. You do not want this to be the main source you have of increasing the vibration. You want to eat healthily at all, if at all possible. But if you absolutely must go with the gas station burrito, this will at least help offset how bad for you that is. Won't do much for the sodium, but it will keep the vibrational level up. So that has been a quick and dirty look at what sort of foods you do and do not want to eat, and how to be ready for them. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a beautiful day. I will see you on the next video.